Hey folks, let's dive right into this stream. And I am going to do that thing where I dual publish on TradingView. So give me 1 second here. Beautiful, let's do it. Hey folks, welcome to the daily Bitcoin update. Today we're going to talk about the required pivots for mean reversion for an upward move on Bitcoin at this time, right? So if we zoom in here, we'll talk about our previous pivot that defined our upward trend and how quickly it broke, okay? And it is important to remember that we need to look at the volatility overhead of the previous expansion, which was the 180 period. So I am going to have the 180 period loaded up right next to my new expansion band, and that is going to define itself like so. Now it's really interesting to see as we have two pivots defining trend here. First is the 180 pivot, which you'll notice directly defines support for Bitcoin during this location. And the moment that pivot is broken, well, it is quite clear what happened, right? So if we have a pivot that defines trend and the pivot defining trend breaks, well, then the trend is over and then it's no man's land, right? It is also important to note we have the shorter term new expansion pivot defining trend, which was poking its head out straight through here. And as soon as that pivot broke, it was implied that we would revert to its relative mean. Now, here's an interesting point, guys. Now we have a new downward expansion with a new period of mass defining trend. If we do zoom in, let's actually talk about how this is going to play out for Bitcoin. You'll notice we're getting some high price volatility at the key pivot of the new overexpansion. So let's get that visible right there. Okay. This pivot right here is going to define if we're going to get sustained downward trend or a mean reversion position, right? And it is important to note that this trade could either be lateral mean reversion, where price goes sideways and the mean travels down to meet price. Alternatively, it could be a rejection point like we saw with the previous overexpansion for Bitcoin, right, guys? So if we zoom out and look at the previous instance of overexpansion here, right? We first had a downward leg followed by a bear flag. And the bear flag is just the compression of shorter term distributions. Then you'll notice we initially found resistance on that pivot and we saw rejection. When we did re-enter the band at this location, you'll notice that we did see lateral mean reversion where the mean traveled down to meet price and that new trend could be instated. Then that trend was very short lasting as it broke the pivot and reverted to its relative mean. And now we're at current price, where we'll either see a rejection at this current time or a new mean reversion position. Okay, so the wicks will be high right now, so it is going to be hard to take positions. Let's actually think about this though. The ideal way to enter this trade is have one long in, say, a futures contract and one short in a perpetual swap contract, for instance, right? And then you can have stops set relative for each position. Now, you can also market enter the positions. That's going to be much more risky, and this will actually allow you to better manage your positions, okay? So if we do break down, we do expect reversion to the weekly 200 moving average, and an upward break is going to result in mean reversion to around 3,680. Now, I do need to mention that if we break inside this band, it doesn't mean we're immediately going to the relative mean. It's going to play out more like this. Because we have a downward slope of our relative volatility band, okay, that does mean we will see high price volatility at its relative pivot, and it's possible that we can continue testing the bottom edge of the band while we wait for the mean reversion position to play out. Again, this can be lateral mean reversion, so it's more than likely that we can just go sideways and the mean will travel down to meet price. Again, this would just be a bear flag. It's also important to note that any kind of upward break here cannot start a new upward trend because we'll need to wait for the compression of this new volatility overhead to reinstate a move in the opposite direction. Okay, guys, and if we pop over to the daily chart, just our daily reminder of what our pivot for trend definition is, right? It's going to be the 250 period band. And again, we are still no closer to reaching that pivot at this time. Okay? So let's just have that 250 band visible here so we get a good look. And it's actually really nice to look at our short-term distribution here as well, as defined by the 50 band. And do excuse the lag, these indicators do take up a lot of processing power. Let's swap this guy over to the 250, if it so chooses to load. There we go. 250 band, we'll hit the enter key there. Beautiful. So this new band that just loaded up is defining our downward trend, and it is likely that we will revert to its relative mean if the band is entered. Now you'll notice, this is rather interesting, our 50 band right here, when we re-entered the overexpanded distribution, we did revert to its relative mean, and we are compressing as defined by that period, right? As long as we don't get new expansion, right, a new red plume here on the daily chart, that would actually be a rather good definition of the beginning of a new trend. As a new expansion, especially considering how compressed our short-term wave PM periods are, I would be rather interested in to see if that would be a continued downward expansion for this particular price action, or any kind of upward move would result in longer-term daily mean reversion, which would be a short-term bullish scenario and allow for the rapid compression of these long-term distributions that are preventing the start of a new upward trend, at least for the long term, on Bitcoin. Okay, guys? Again, we will not see a bullish trend until we have positively weighted mean period volatility for Bitcoin, right? Currently, we have negatively weighted mean period volatility because our shorter term distributions are weighted below our longer term distributions. Any kind of upward move right now is simply going to be a mean reversion position to this longest overexpanded period, and it would be very difficult for Bitcoin to get anywhere up above. First, this pivot that identifies mean reversion, and secondary, the mean itself. Okay, this has gotten much too laggy to continue recording, so I am going to cut this one 3 minutes short. All right, folks, thanks for tuning in. Beautiful. Okay, time to look at the YouTube comments, see what you guys want me to look at. Load up another chart layout. Hey, folks, welcome to the... And just give me 1 second while I get this fired up. Beautiful. Check salt. Zane W, you say the resolution is terrible. I could pull up the video right now, and I could stream it in 1080p. You know, we could also, I also increased the video bit rate to 8,000 megabits per second. So, yeah, that is a red square, though. You are right. Okay. We're dropping half the frames. Well, that's technical difficulty. Not something I can do today. All right. Well, if you want to see this in higher resolution, you can just pop over to the TradingView idea as soon as that's finished uploading. I guess because it's uploading, it might be ruining everything. Okay. Well, do bear with me. I'm pretty sure that the higher resolution version will be up later. Let's go ahead and check out Salt. You see, part of the problem, I have to wait for this to finish uploading, and I guess that conflicting bandwidth does give us some problems. And there's no way to, like, pause that upload either, so. Salt BTC. I mean, I'm watching the stream on my phone in 1080p, so never mind. I'm not sure, mate. Oh well. Salt. Yeah, we did have a nice little breakout there. Let's go to the 4-hour chart, see how it's actually playing. More compression. That's not really a true breakout. Sorry, folks. I guess with salt, we have a new overexpansion. We'll see a short-term short mean reversion position, but there's nowhere you can actually short this coin. So it doesn't really mean that there's much for us to do on this chart. Again, I want positively weighted mean period volatility. That has not been the case quite yet, so no trade on this, folks. Sorry. Check ont. Do forgive me, Zane. I am watching the stream in HD on my phone. That's how I get the comments. So I do apologize if your resolution is low. Very low volatility overhead on this chart. Still no weighting of mean period volatility. A lot of compression, guys. Again, with these kinds of compressions, you want to wait until trend actually begins before you get the chance to trade this chart. Okay? So unfortunately, I have no opinions on ONT as well. My apologies. Let's go ahead and take a look at Steam. Hopefully it's not more of the same. Ooh, see, now we actually have a trend here. Let's actually define the longest overexpanded period so we know what our mean reversion pivots are. Luckily, it is the 200 band, so that will be easy to set up. Okay, perfect. Blue unloaded in faster. So, because we are so far away from our mean reversion pivots, we are going to see the continued expansion, and this pivot is going to get lower and lower. So, or at least a longer period, which will decrease the scaling of the pivot, meaning that the higher the price goes up, actually, the more flatlined this pivot will become. So that doesn't really provide us with all that much of a good trade. I don't think there's anywhere you can short this, so I won't take the time to load up the 3.2 standard deviation to see where it's tagging for shorts. Really, if we were to trade anything, we could just trade the higher volatility on, say, something like the 1 minute chart, though it is a bit too choppy. So let's try the 3 minutes, see if we can get any over expansions down here. Okay. The only thing I'm seeing is this here, this downward expansion, the 200 period overexpanded. That would have caused this mean reversion position, but you'll notice that was a lateral move. Again, more lateral mean reversions here. I guess this is significant compression. If you want to wait to see which way this breaks, you could do a FOMO entry, right? Because new expansion does result in some pretty nice trades. Pretty enough chart, guys, but nothing I want to trade. Wow, very boring day today. Let's check out POA. Oh, this could be nice. At least here in the 3 minute chart. No, it's got a little bit further retracement based on the 3D wave PM. Okay, let's go to the 4 hour. This is a nice chart. We have positively weighted mean period volatility. Let's go to the 1 hour and define our mean reversion pivots. Okay, the adaptive Bollinger Band isn't going to do much for us, so I need to load up that period manually. Looks like the 220. Give me 1 second. Actually, 200, excuse me. Cool, we have the 200 loaded. So we're going to have to use a quad CCI strategy with this based on the current pattern of volatility. And how are we going to do that? That's a good question. Okay. Well, we have two options. I guess we could do the 1 hour or 4 hour to define this. 4 hour is going to be a lot safer. I mean, you have a defined upward trend, a new overexpansion. Based on the 4 hour, though, this actually looks really nice. Let's hide our regular bands here for a second. Clean. Okay, so this is defined rather nicely. And it looks like I have a ghosty thing. Damn it. Thank you. Okay. Nice. So, if you want to draw a trend line from here to here, and you want to enter on that trend line, go ahead. Right? Because this is now a defined trend, I'm actually going to set an alert for myself, and I might call this later today if that pivot is hit. Okay? Of course, I am going to need to see the CCI roll up, so nothing quite yet, but this does appear to be a nice breakout. Let's just wait for the swing low of this new trend and see if we can capture the trade. Okay? It's a good chart, just not a good entry at this time. So, a little bit of patience here will do us well. I'm going to wait on this one, guys. Cairo says, what does cat imply with his picture? You're going to need to show me the picture. I don't know what picture you're talking about. Ast is breaking out again. Okay. God damn it. I took profit at 950 Satoshis right there. Trailing stop took me out. I'm very happy with it. However, probably could have defined this pivot here, okay? 100 band. Let's take a look. Because we probably could have gotten re-entry on this, if I'm being honest. No, that would have stopped us out. Okay. Well, quad CCI strategy would just suggest the next roll up. So if you want to wait for a 14 period CCI roll, that might treat you well. Positively weighted mean period volatility. I like it, guys. It's a good chart. Just do wait for the CCI roll, and that should play us well. Check one last major cap coin. See if this is Dunlap lining as well. Cool. Oh, this is going to be a fun chart, guys. Nice. Our mean reversion pivot definitely hit. Longest overexpanded is the 200. That's really clean. I should have called the counter position for... Wow, hold on. That is so clean. As soon as this band is re-entered, guess what's implied, guys? Mean reversion to its relative mean. Like, look how cleanly this provides the pivot for trend and mean reversion. We might bounce directly on top of this mean. If you want to set up a nice profit ratio trade, go ahead. We'll draw that in for you guys. Though I would consider this very high risk. For this kind of trade, yeah, use a small percentage of your portfolio and be very careful because, you know, this is a downward trend. You're betting against a downward trend, and you would just be betting on the bounce from the actual mean, and that's not a guaranteed thing. Oh, god damn it. This hit my stop loss yesterday. Yeah, that's so perfect. Right, we anticipated the bounce on the actual mean, and then this wick caught me out. But now it's actually looking like the trend is reversing. That's disappointing. Shoot. Well, I'm still in AE, but this one got me. Part of the game, folks. Right, I set a 3% stop loss, and it took me out at 3.75. And now, well, we got a 5% upside. That's disappointing. All part of the game, though. Okay. No new comments. Oh, wait, yeah, there's plenty of new comments. Let's go ahead and take a look at VEU. I'm gonna actually let you tell me which one it is. Right, because I don't know what you mean. Oh, just the regular ETF. I get it. Okay. Kat, you already know what you want me to say about this chart, don't you? Okay. Yeah, that is implied. Okay. Cat, you know how to trade this. If you see the pop in here, trade the mean reversion. Otherwise, prepare your shorts. Simple chart, mate. I'm going to do XAU USD real quick. And that'll be done. On the 8-hour chart, I'm going to do the 12-hour chart. So yeah, this trend is defining itself. The trend is defined okay. If you want to wait for that 14-period CCI roll up, you can go ahead and trade that. Right? It's a defined trend. Trade the trend, take the CCI rolls that are relative to the trend, right? Pretty simple chart there. Easy to trade. And finally, I'm going to do USD Japanese yen, and then I'll be on my way. Yeah, this is still trading its mean reversion position. That's fine. Again, this is just going to trend up to its relative mean. It's a very simple, straightforward chart. Right now we're looking to trade to the 450 moving average, which is probably going to look something like that. Okay. Counter trade. It's clean. I guess we'll just wait for that pivot to load up so we can actually find out what the target is, and then I'll be on my way. Oh, we're actually not inside the band yet. My apologies. I made a big assumption there. Never mind. Excuse me. This right here, my friends, could be an excellent short entry. Of course, do be very aware. If we do re-enter this band, we will revert to the relative mean. Okay? Be careful on this chart. It's a good chart, but do be careful, please. This is not the chart you asked for. My apologies. C8. It's pretty much the same chart. Okay. Right, this was such a big move on the Japanese yen. Really, anything that it's paired with is going to look the same right now. You're just going to anticipate that mean reversion pivot and to see if it's crossed. Okay? Okay, folks. This has been fun. I'll talk to you all later. You have a beautiful day.